Louisiana beer reviews, Genesee Brew Scotch Ale. From what I can understand, this was introduced in 2015, to the best of my knowledge, and apparently it's 7.5. Well, okay, it says on the bottle 7.5% alcohol. It doesn't say on the website. Rate Beer and Beer Advocate were listing that. Genesee Pilot Batch Brewhouse, or Genesee Brewhouse Pilot Batch. Last month, Maria Devon, the girl next door, and myself did visit that, and we did talk to the brewmaster, Dean Jones. He was very friendly. Spent a good amount of time with us. They don't allow people to come onto the floor when they're brewing, but I mean, we could see the whole pilot brew house. It was pretty small, and you know, he was a really interesting guy to talk to. So this is their Scotch ale. Now, I never had it before last night. We were doing an examination of a beer, and so I tried this as the second beer of the night, and it was interesting. Twist cap, that's convenient. Some people have a problem with that. I think the problem is that a lot of people like to use the beer bottles for home brewing, and twist caps won't work for that. But as far as affecting the flavor of the beer, I don't think it's going to have any kind of influence at all. Abita used to have twist caps for their beers, but then it became like a craft beer thing, right, to have pry-off caps. So about 4 years ago, 2012, I guess, they went to pry caps. Either way, it's no big deal. Beige head. It's amber, red amber, on the red side of amber. There's some lazy bubbles, a little bit of sediment, not much. It's mostly clear. I thought the Oscar Blues Gubna Scotch ale was really good. That's I believe 8%. The one from Great Britain, McEwen's Scotch ale, I think it's called, is really nice. So let's check it out. As far as video reviews, there were two. Ethan's Beer Reviews. He was very pleased with it, and there was another guy, he didn't like it. But then his reasoning was, I think maybe I was interpreting wrong because I kept rewatching it. I think his reasoning was that he just didn't like these types of beers. I was not clear on really what he was saying, but this beer gets a good score on Beer Advocate, only 14 ratings. 42 out of 100 on Rate Beer, not good. And an 18 out of 100 for the style. 18 out of 100, really not good. With only 12 ratings, so that's only 26. And I don't know how many of them are even written, because Beer Advocate will let you score it, but you don't have to write a review. So I'm going to try to look at them. Creamy head. Yeah, creamy. Oh. How could I forget? Pete Whalen brought his brothers and himself. They bought me, like, it had to be 40 beers. And this is one of the ones they gave me. I was so embarrassed because he was coming to see me. He's a viewer, and I said, well, since he's coming to New Orleans, and he actually made a special trip across Lake Pontchartrain to meet me in Metairie, and we went to Lagers, a nice place. And I said, I'll buy him a beer. And then he opens the trunk, and I'm like, what? I thought he was bringing beer around to different people, and he said, no, this is all for you. And it's like, what? So I appreciate it, Pete. I mean, people ask me quite often, do you do beer trades? I don't do beer trades. It's a big hassle. I'm not into going. I mean, it's a big pain to go to the UPS store or the post office and package it and mail it, and then I get it back from the other person. We get so many beers around here, just in this town alone, that I could do one a day and I would never run out. Okay, there's so much turnover. So the beer trade thing for me is not an incentive. I don't really care to do it. Yeah, there's some beers I'd like to try that I can't get, but I'm not really too worried about it. If I don't get to try it, oh well, I don't get to try it. It's no big tragedy. It smells sweet, malty, bready. Not too peaty though, like the McEwen's. Maybe the Gubna is more peaty. This is a clean smell, just sweet malt, maybe maraschino cherries, maybe, you know, it's hard to, you know, when you describe these beers, it's, you never really accurately describe it because they're not typically using fruit or bread. They're using, you know, grain that bread is made out of, although most bread is not made from barley, it's made from wheat. I don't know the ingredients for this. They don't list it on the website. Wish they did. I'm presuming barley malt, water, hops and yeast, possibly corn or rice adjunct. Couldn't tell you, don't know. But it smells pretty good. Nice. It's nice. Not extraordinary. Most beers aren't extraordinary. At least the ones I try. Greenleaf will say, yeah, but 90% of beers aren't extraordinary. You need to try the really good ones. He's right. I'm not arguing that point. I just don't worry about it too much. I'm just picking things, you know, off the shelf. Let me try this, let me try that. I'm not saying, oh, is it the most elegant or elevated beer? I guess I just don't care. Although I'm not arguing the point. The flavor is a lot richer than the aroma. And that could be that it's not warm enough yet. Honestly, I'm not really into warm beers. I prefer them cold. I know that's gauche. I mean, who ever heard of drinking a cold beer? You plebeian. But I probably am one of those type of people. I just like cold beer. I like hot tea. I like hot coffee. I like cold beer. I like cold ice cream. I prefer cold beer, okay? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't necessarily want it ice cold, but I like it cold. I like it cold. Okay, not preaching. So, sweet, bready, yeah, sweet bread crust, brown bread crust. You say, not this again. Yeah, this again, because, you know, beer has, hate to tell you this, or I don't hate to tell you this, but beer does have commonalities. There are many commonalities in flavor and aroma and body and finish and overall presentation. I think with beer, the big issue at hand is more of a quality question. Is it a good quality product or is it a bad quality product? Not so much like, oh, well, I have to differentiate my video review, so I'll just like come up with different descriptors. That's not really a good idea, I don't think. Nice lacing. I remember proper hops. He would have, it seems like 60 different descriptors for each different beer, and it was interesting. Some people thought it was maybe not necessarily genuine. Doesn't really matter because about, what, 5 years ago or 3 years ago, he just split with the program. Like so many reviewers, they're going to do all these things. They got high production values. It's a fantastic thing. It's just going to be this big effort. But it doesn't last. And I think people just get tired of doing it. Or they think it's going to be a bigger enterprise than it turns out to be, and so they get discouraged and they quit. Or whatever. Or maybe they get sick, and like one reviewer who I really admired, he got ill. He just could not do it. Or whatever the case. It doesn't, I'm not here to say, oh, everybody has to be on at least 20 years or they're not credible. I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about it. Okay, so there's a little tannin, a little fruit like I said, maraschino cherry or cherry skins or something. Bread crust. Like, okay, tannins. Tea-like qualities. But no peatiness, no peat moss, so that, or peat from the soil, you know, no real earthiness. Maybe a little red clay, something. The mouthfeel is medium. Ethan talked about it didn't have enough body. I think it has enough body. I do think that. The finish is dry, not super dry, medium dry. It's not, you know, it's dry like, say, yeah, and someone brought this up last night, a Killian's Irish Red type thing. This is an ale, that's a lager in America, it's an ale in Europe. And when you get the Killian's, the Pelforth Killian's in France. It's a like 6% red ale, owned by Heineken now, interestingly enough. But anyway, this is good. I'm sitting here thinking and talking, you know, running on, and I can't really, I don't know if it has to have peat to be qualified as a really good Scotch ale. I don't know that. I don't know a whole lot about Scotch ales. But just looking at it for what it is, it tastes really good. I think it's a most excellent beer in A, which is extremely and remarkably higher than what Beer Advocate is saying. I'll be curious to read the few reviews on there and see what their complaint is. I don't see a complaint. I don't think these are priced too high. When I was looking around those stores like Wegmans and Walmart in Ithaca, New York with Maria, I was, you know, I didn't buy everything, but I was looking, I was like, this is not expensive, you know. So, okay, so for a craft beer made by a macro, North American breweries, Genesee is a macro, or a quasi-macro, more of a regional beer company like Dixie used to be before their catastrophic destruction in 2005. Okay, Yingling is a good example. They're becoming a macro quickly. But yeah, for that, and even if it was a craft beer from a, you know, microbrewery, I would say it's an A beer. So, Laissez les bon temps relais, an A beer. I mean, it's an A. If a beer is essentially 100% good and 0% bad, I'm going to score it high. Now, maybe I'll score too high, but I'm going with it. So, y'all come on down to New Orleans.